Are you wondering which civilization you should choose in Rise of Kingdoms? Well, my friends, we're going to help you pick the very best civilization for you based on what phase of the game you're in. Whether you are just starting out or you are a veteran who is between rounds of Kingdom versus Kingdom, this guide is going to help you get the most value possible. And my friends, this is an evolution of the previous guide we made that got over 170,000 views on how to pick the best civilization. So stick around for our new evolved guidance on the very best civilization you can pick in Rise of Kingdoms. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chiscool Gaming. Today, we are going to break down exactly what civilization you should choose based on what phase of the game you're in, whether you are starting new, working toward your first Kingdom versus Kingdom, what to pick when you're in Kingdom versus Kingdom, and last but not least, what to do when you're out of Kingdom versus Kingdom after your season of KVK has ended. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. We're a sponsored content creator, and let me tell you, if you want to jump to any portion of this video that's more appropriate for you, we'll have timestamps in the description so you can get the most relevant thing as fast as possible. And hey, if you enjoy this guide, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here. That supports the channel a ton and really does help out a lot. I do want to mention at the start of this guide that swapping civilizations may feel like a micro optimization, but over a long period of time, this will really make a big difference. So I would recommend that you put a little bit of thought into this and not to stress over it too much. If you don't want to think about it now, fine, think about it later. But you should think about this at some point because, yeah, it does make a difference. And if this guide is some reason too long for you, then hey, just switch to Germany and never think about it ever again. But you'll see why I make that recommendation in just a bit. We're going to break this down based on exactly what phase of the game you're in, whether you are, again, just starting or you're more advanced. And we'll start at the beginning here, your starting civilization. I have two recommendations for you at this point in time. I want you to either choose Britain, and this is my number one choice, because you will get a bunch of sculptures of Boudica. So you start with Britain. If you stay Britain, that's fine. You're going to get extra troop training speed, which is really, really good. However, what I would recommend to you to do is to then use a civilization swap token to go to China. That is going to give you 5% building speed and action point recovery. And if you're following my guide to gather over 30 million resources a day, yeah, you are going to want that extra building speed. You'll be able to take advantage of that. The second civilization I can recommend as a starting civilization is China. And that is because you're going to enjoy that 5% building speed. You're going to be doing a ton of building in the start of the game. And the action point recovery is really, really good. Sun Tzu is the best epic in the game. I can recommend highly this approach for starting out. Now, if you chose some other civilization, don't worry, you don't have to start over. I want to remind everyone that you don't have to spend 10,000 gems to switch civilizations. You can go into your Alliance shop and you can purchase with Alliance currency the ability to switch civilizations. That costs you 2 million Alliance currency, which I know that feels expensive, but if you're low on Alliance currency, one thing that your Alliance can do is set up what's called a one troop flag. We have one of those going right now. You have everyone in your Alliance send only one troop, literally one troop. You see one horseman in here, right, for each player. And what you can do is you let them sit in there overnight and they accrue 25,000 Alliance currency. That's the most you can get in any one day. And then you can send them home, right? So I typically might send that one troop into the flag overnight. You get a ton of Alliance currency. That's how you get enough Alliance currency to go into the shop and buy these civilization swaps. Now, one thing that is important that I add here is that although you can use a token to switch your civilization, you're not going to get a different quest for commanders and those extra sculptures you're going to get from the starting civilization that you chose. So if you chose something other than China or other than Britain, you're going to be getting some other commander, and you know what? It's still going to be fine. You're going to get plenty of sculptures over time. You can solve this problem using your universal sculptures. Simply prioritize Boudica or Sun Tzu and then eventually Joan of Arc, but that's a separate guide entirely. But if you follow my guidance here and you start with Britain and then switch to China, or you start with China and then you'll have an extra token lying around, you'll be able to spend a lot of time in the game building up and building up and building up toward your first Kingdom versus Kingdom. using that extra building speed and action point recovery. Once you have gotten past City Hall 25 or reached the point where, hey, I can't run two things building at the same time because you don't have the resources, or maybe you don't have the required materials, like maybe you need Books of the Covenant or you need Arrows of Resistance, whatever that is. Once you've crossed that threshold, you are either probably well into your first Kingdom versus Kingdom, or you've been through your first Kingdom versus Kingdom. So let's talk about what you would switch to if you're in your first Kingdom versus Kingdom and your buildings are already in a really good spot. Because I like China. Even through your first Kingdom versus Kingdom, the action point recovery is really good. So if you're still benefiting from the building speed, the AP recovery is great. The troop defense for all troop types is great for your first KVK. That's a fine civilization to stay as. But for more advanced players that are getting into that cycle and sort of groove of like, okay, I'm in the mid to end game, I go into KVK, and then I'm out of KVK. I'm going to KVK, and I'm out of KVK. Let's talk about the civilization choices you would make when you are in Kingdom versus Kingdom. Now, depending on what your role is going to influence your choice. I have a couple recommendations for you. First of all, if you are a field fighter, you are not the rally leader, you are not the garrison captain, and you're using so many healing speed ups that you run out and you find yourself wanting to use universal speed ups to heal your troops, then I would strongly recommend that you should be choosing France. At that point, the 20% hospital healing speed is a big deal if you are using universal speed ups for healing your troops, which generally I would avoid doing unless you are already well on your way toward T5 troops or well in your way into T5 troops. The other very strong consideration I would have for you if you are not a rally leader garrison captain is going to be Germany. If you're not doing tons of field fighting, I really like Germany for the troop training speed of 5%. It's amazing. You have 4 buildings that benefit from that. And the AP recovery of 10% is great. You're going to be using primarily cavalry anyways for running and battling barbs. So having that special unit is amazing. The cav attack is great. I would strongly recommend Germany as that civilization if you are not fighting so much you're running out of healing speed ups and you want to get extra value in and between Kingdom versus Kingdom. Now, if you are that rally lead or garrison captain, I have a couple recommendations for you. The first recommendation I've got is Arabia. This will be my number one choice if you are rallying. And that is because the 5% damage dealt by rallied armies is amazing. It doesn't matter if it's normal attack, counterattack, skill damage, all of it is boosted, but it only works for leading rallies. So that has to be a role that you are very much doing regularly for this to be a civilization that you would consider. There is, however, an alternative. And that alternative, if you are leading archer rallies, is going to be the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire is going to give you 5% extra skill damage boost and 5% archer health, which is huge. You do have an archer special unit, and the march speed is very, very good in the field. The final option for rallying might be rallying with infantry, and I would actually argue Arabia is probably fine for that because of the 5% extra damage dealt by rallied armies. You could consider Rome, I suppose, but honestly, that feels a little weird to me. I feel like you get more value from the Arabia choice, and Rome is a better civilization if you're in sort of a flex garrison role. The only time in which like you might be rallying with infantry in Rise of Kingdoms is like KVK Season 2. But if you're doing that in your KVK Season 2, you probably should have been using infantry for garrison instead, and you're going to run your kingdom out of infantry. Like, archers are the rally choice there. So I don't think you should be rallying with infantry primarily in Rise of Kingdoms. If you did, Arabia or Rome would be those choices that I recommend. Now, if you are a garrison captain, we've got a different sort of story. If you are an infantry garrison captain, Rome is the popular choice. People also sometimes look to France, and that's because they're both field fighting and doing the garrison. And I think that is actually a very, very reasonable choice. The health is a really great stat, and it's more versatile as a pick. If your garrison is going to be archers, then Ottoman Empire is truly exceptional for all the same reasons I was mentioning earlier: the health, the skill damage, and the special unit. And if you're garrisoning with cavalry, something very strange has happened. Maybe that's a meta choice in KVK Season 2. It's very, very unusual. I guess if you were going to do that, maybe the best unit would be Byzantium, but like, I don't. Just no. That's weird. Maybe the 5% skill damage from Ottoman Empire would be a fine choice. Maybe Germany is just a better all-around choice and is more likely to be what I would recommend. The amount of incremental gain you get from Byzantium is so small, I can't even handle it. So to summarize, if you're leading rallies, especially with cavalry, Arabia. If you're all in on archers, go with Ottoman Empire. And if you're rallying with infantry, I'm going to be confused, but hey, Rome would be the pick there. For garrison, those recommendations are going to be Ottoman Empire for archers, Rome for infantry, and again, I'm going to be confused if you're doing cavalry, but if you are using your cavalry, then Germany or Byzantium, but Byzantium is such a weird choice. So now that you've rocked out your kingdom versus kingdom, you go to the other end of that cycle, which is chilling between KVKs. And what I would recommend when you are between KVKs, if you're not still building up your account and using China for the building speed to do that, is going to be just straight up Germany. And this is what I do. I switch between like Germany and Arabia. When I'm in KVK, I use Arabia for rallies. When I'm between KVKs, I use Germany now. And the troop training speed is just astonishingly good. The AP recovery is astonishingly good. The cavalry unit is very good for a very long time with Attila Takeda. It's phenomenal. I can recommend this very, very highly when you are between KVKs. That's my core cycle. Get extra troops and AP recovery between KVK. And then when I'm in KVK leading rallies or garrisons, I pick the civilization that gives me the most benefit. Now, there are some choices I haven't yet mentioned that do have special roles, and I want to talk about those. One of those civilizations in the early game is actually Spain. Spain is actually pretty solid in the early game if what you want to do is power up some commanders. So if you're in your very first kingdom versus kingdom, or you're making your way toward it and you want to level up more, you can go with Spain, and that's a great choice. The 10% extra experience from barbarians is actually huge. So if you're great at spending your action points, Spain is a fine choice. The unit is good. The defense for Cavs is good. And the extra resource production, I mean, that's a nice little sort of cherry on top. And that's something you could consider swapping to after you finish with China and you no longer need that extra building speed. I also haven't mentioned Korea. And Korea holds a very special role for whales, but I would argue that's about it. If you are a whale, you can swap to Korea for a short period of time, do a ton of research, and then swap to something else. And the reason I say that's primarily for whales is because the rest of these benefits aren't actually going to do much for you most of the time. You don't really use mostly archers in most cases. You don't really need the extra hospital capacity in most cases. So you really only want to use Korea for a very short time, enjoy the extra research speed, and then move on. Now, although Japan is going to offer you 5% extra resource gathering speed and some march speed, which is sort of more relevant than meets the eye in the new format of Kingdom versus Kingdom, Heroic Anthem, and also when you're just starting out in your kingdom and you want to explore stuff, I'm going to make the argument that Japan's role is purely for farm accounts, and you shouldn't use it for a main account. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying I think you can do better, specifically with Germany between Kingdom versus Kingdom cycles, or China when you're building up your account in the first place, or even Germany when you're building up your account, because yeah, you're always going to need more troops in this game. Always. That's always going to be good for you. Now, I briefly talked about Byzantium. I honestly don't think this is a great choice. The hospital capacity may actually be strangely relevant in the new format of Heroic Anthem KVK. That's a sort of separate idea, though, that isn't relevant for most players. I think that the cavalry health is phenomenal, but the stone gathering speed is really not all that important to you, and the hospital capacity is not relevant most of the time. Now, you know, it's funny. I really thought that by the time I would be doing this guide, there would be some new civilizations to talk about. And although there aren't new civilizations, you know, the way that I am playing with the civilization choices I make changed enough that I thought it was worth talking about. You should be thinking about what civilization gives me the most value when I'm not in KVK, and then what civilization gives you the most value when I am in KVK. And if you were to pick any one civilization and just never switch, Germany's a great choice for most people. The troops are great. The AP recovery is good. You should be spending your AP. If you're not spending your AP, that's a separate matter entirely. And I guess if you're not spending your action points, you could pick a different civilization, but look, like even if you went with Britain, like you're not going to use the garrison capacity. It's irrelevant. It's really irrelevant almost for everyone all the time. So I'm thinking that Germany is a really good choice all the time these days. And when you're in KVK and you've got that special role, you switch to something else. Do I need the healing? Okay, France it is. Am I rallying or garrisoning? Okay, switch to whatever you're doing. Otherwise, just enjoy those benefits of Germany. And hey, if you're looking for detailed guidance the second that new civilizations or content arrives in the game, consider subscribing for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos that help you get value over your enemies and then smash. If you're looking for something else to watch, we've recently been remastering our epic commander guides. I'll have a card up in the top to that playlist. If you're looking for the very best talents, well, my friends, there they will be. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.